sooner I get through these articles, the sooner I can get back to the latest crack addiction. All right. $2 billion in subsidies, only 2 EV stations open. The holdup is quote unquote social justice. No, the holdup is quote unquote it's all a scam. I'm going to be kind of dividing my attention because fucking fucking Pip Kun's lazy ass bait is just making everyone lose their shit again. Why? It's like so lazy. I love the guy, but man. Okay, let's see. If yet another example of Biden incompetence, the administration is setting up rules making it harder to deliver EV charging stations. And this is going to get stupid. Politicizing EV charging stations. The Wall Street Journal comments on the politicization of EV charging revolution. And I quote, the government rollout of EV charges has been a slow motion affair, as you would expect. The reason is politics. The feds are throwing billions of dollars to build charging stations, but they've added social justice and union mandates that make build out more complicated and necessary. See? It's all a scam. It's like, where's the money going? You're laundering it to your buddies. That's all this is. It's the latest payout of 7.5 billion in funding from 2021 infrastructure spending blowout. Transportation Secretary Pete But spoke of handing out money as triumph in itself. We have a chance to lead this world in EV revolution. But the revolution's been a long time coming. Despite 2 billion subsidies already authorized, only 2 federally funded stations have opened. I covered this a while back. Bureaucrats are getting their own way. The FHWA issued a rule requiring workers for most projects be certified by electricians union or another government appointed training program. See? There's the rub. Commie is going to commie. Fuck unions. States have also blasted a program for its lack of flexibility. Florida's transportation department said projects were stifled by guidance that stations be 50 miles apart. Pennsylvania limited restrictions on building stations with fewer than 4 charging ports. Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, and Wyoming all beg for relief from the Buy America requirement for steel and iron components, which the agency waived temporarily last year. The latest funding comes from rules that will make sure charging station customers are even scarcer than workers. Half the grant money is set aside for disadvantaged communities that are marginalized by underinvestment, which is the agency's description, includes Alaskan and Arizona Indian tribes and urban parks and libraries. Half the money will be spent where no one can afford an EV. There you go. I'm getting hiccups. Don't know if it'll just on my side though. My drop frames is in the red. I don't know what it means. It's sitting at 65%. We'll see if it improves. Not really much I can do on my end. If not, just watch the VOD. I don't really care. I don't. I'm not about the live metrics. Where was I? Yada 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 yada. So it's pretty much going over all the numbers of like who can afford EVs and where all the money is going and whatnot. And like the main point says, it's like most of this money is quote unquote being allocated to where it's like, okay, we want all this money to go to the poor people, but the poor people can't afford the electronic vehicles. You see the problem here, the catch-22, if you will. I like this. I like this little list here. 8 inconvenient electronic vehicle truths. EVs are more expensive. EVs are inconvenient for anyone who needs a public charger. EVs are inconvenient for anyone who drives long distances. Insurance costs are higher. Maintenance costs are higher. Repairs take longer and parts are in short supply. Minor accidents can be very costly acquiring new battery. Consumers don't want the damn things, and rightfully so. I would put an honorable mention at number 9 being that the batteries don't function in cold temperatures, and right now it's sitting at, let's see, -4 is actually pretty mild today, but it was like -20 this morning, so EVs don't work in these parts. Adoption rate, yada yada yada. EV sales. Okay, so like this EV sales here was during the bubble where there was a lot of flow through money and subsidies. That's where the quote unquote growth came from, which we covered before. Oh, I haven't mentioned this yet, and this is a good point. Insurance companies do not like EVs. Insurance companies hate EVs, mostly because of the battery fires. And the fact that if so much if there's like a ding on anything, you have to like pretty much write off the entire vehicle, and the insurance companies do not like that. Same thing with repairs. We talked about Hertz a while back about how they're trying to liquidate their EV collection, and there's no takers. Mm. Yada yada yada. So yeah, it's just going over mostly stuff we've covered before, but it's mostly the spelling out of like how it's a big scam because they're trying to get the money to where like they're doing everything with the money other than what they said they were going to do with it, which is fucking hilarious. Scam, scam, scam. I don't know if I fell too far behind in Proctor's general chat. Yeah, Persona fans ruin Persona. I do agree with that too. Okay. No one cares about your drawings, Proctor. Let's see. Oh, this chick again. Fanny fingered. A jilted wife in Trump, Georgia fiasco drops bank statements revealing lavish vacations. Okay. So for a quick catch up, this chick hired her new boyfriend. Her new boyfriend is in the middle of divorce proceedings, and his soon to be divorced wife dropped their bank statements. So she dropped the receipts of these two going on vacations and shit with the taxpayer money that she laundered to him by quote unquote hiring him, and yeah. So this is the latest installment of this ongoing saga, which I had a feeling that this here was going to be gold when the first instance of this here came up, and I'm all here for its inevitable conclusion. And again, this chick and this dude are one of the main litigation suits that Trump is in right now. So if these here chuckle fucks end up having to recurse themselves and drop the case, that's going to be a domino effect for a lot of the other cases, which is fucking hilarious. Yeah, my dot frame rates is now at the 69%. Nice. Yeah, and then I'm gonna do about that. Let's see. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The jilted wife of District Attorney Fannie Willis' alleged lover and outside counsel Nathan Wade dropped receipts on Friday in a Friday court filing revealing that Wade purchased plane tickets in Willis's name and alleged travel to places such as Napa Valley, California, Florida, and the Caribbean, according to the Daily Caller. According to records filed in the Wade divorce, Wade brought tickets for he and Fannie to travel uh, on both Norwegian and Royal Caribbean cruise lines. Yada yada yada. Receipts. According to Wade, made two payments to Royal Caribbean cruise lines in the same day. The amount of $1,387 and $1,284 on October 4th, 2022. Yada yada yada. Wade filed to divorce his wife on November 2nd, 2021. The day after his contract with the district attorney began, his wife alleged in prior filings that he did not disclose his earnings from the county to her, but continued to draw from her bank account. Wade's firm has been paid nearly $6,554,000 from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office since 2022, the county data shows. The Friday filing was made in response to Willis's attempt to quash the subpoena for her to testify in the divorce proceedings, with Willis accusing Joycelyn Wade Thursday of seeking to harass and embarrass her to obstruct the Trump case. Wade's wife hit back Friday, calling Willis's arguments disingenuous, and said that the evidence is clear Miss Willis was an intended trial partner for several trips. It is regrettable that Miss Willis has filed such an inflammatory motion, which has left the defendant with no other choice than to respond forcibly with the supporting evidence in the case that is very personal in nature. Reason filing. This shit is fucking hilarious, and I can't wait for the next for the next installment. Yeah. Judge orders wind farm dismantled and win for tribal sovereignty. I actually like this one. So, capping a legal battle that has raged for over a decade, a federal judge in late December handed the Osage Nation a major victory by ordering wind farm developers to dismantle dozens of turbines it had erected on tribal lands in northeastern Oklahoma. Now, I like this article because it's very funny. So the long and short of it is the windmill company, they bought out the surface rights, but not the subsurface, aka mining rights. So for those who don't know, uh, these are two different things. So surface rights, you can do whatever you want on the surface, but if the instant you dig up a single rock or a shovel full of dirt, the instant you do any of that, doesn't matter. If you don't have the subsurface rights, you are fucked. And in this case, this is what the tribe went on because they had to uh, like the windmills, you have to dig a foundation for it and stuff, and so that's what they're getting them on. Is it me or the stream stuttering? The stream is stuttering, and there's nothing I can do about that. I'm showing it red. There's nothing really I can shut down because it's the internet connection. So either it's my ISP or it's on Odyssey's end. So me. Okay, so where's my train of thought? Okay, yeah. So the tribe went after these guys, and they've been in court with them for like over a decade at this point. And the ruling finally came out as like, yeah, you guys were in violation of their subsurface mining rights and stuff. So now, because of the ruling, the windmill company has to tear down their infrastructure and get the fuck out, which is hilarious. So let this be a lesson. If you're going to be a bunch of assholes, you have to be above board and look both ways before jaywalking kind of thing. So they just had the surface rights. They didn't have the subsurface rights, and it came back to bite them. And I've had to actually deal with this before, so this is why I chose to look at this article because I dealt with this kind of I dealt with mining rights, surface and subsurface mining rights before, and this year just tickled my geological fancy, and I found it very amusing given the course that this here court case took. So good for the Indians. Good for them. Let's see. Advocates outraged that feds asked banks to search customers' religious text purchases. So I covered this the other day, and this is just a follow up since the news made the rounds. A lot of people are getting uppity about it, and rightfully so. Faith leaders and religious liberty advocates are up in arms over news that the federal government encouraged banks and other financial institutions to search customers' private accounts using the search term religious text. Well, that did nothing. Actually, I turned off Steam to see if I were to get a better connection rate, but I actually didn't do anything, and it turned off VTube Studio. Yeah, give me a sec to get back up and running with VTube Studio. Don't you bastard. There we go. Okay. Experiment failed. Where was I? Let's see. Faith and religious liberty advocates are up in arms over news that the federal government encouraged banks and other financial institutions to search customer private accounts using the search term religious text. So it was things like Bible, but also like Trump related stuff, like Trump, MAGA, and that kind of shit. They had a shit ton of terms that flagged all these accounts. And I mentioned that at the time I read the previous article that the Watergate scandal was but a prelude of things to come. Other terms that banks, credit card companies, financial firms are asked to use in searches include MAGA and Trump. I said that. Yada 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 yada. The last place you would anticipate this kind of government intrusion in freedom of speech in America is yet it's rife with administration with the deep state. Liberty Counsel founder and chairman Matt Staver told the Epoch Times, it is a very serious concern and should be a serious concern no matter your political beliefs, because if this is permitted, then it just depends who's in power. Duh, of course. This is what the spot governments do to suppress people, and they don't agree with Mr. Staver's organization, Liberty Counsels, and the Orlando, Florida-based nonprofit Religious Liberty Defense Foundation. Score went up for Florida. Weaponizing the federal government against religious Americans freely exercising their constitutionally protected freedom is outrageous and a danger to all of our freedoms. Reflex, save me. Water and Tums. Oh. According to this analysis, FinCEN warned financial institutions of extremism indicators that include transportation charges, such as bus tickets, rental cars, or plane tickets for travel areas with no apparent purpose. Again, I mentioned this in the last article I read on this here, is that they want to find any excuse to curb down your freedoms, and that includes freedom of movement, and that's what this shit is specifically. The Biden administration is bringing back Operation Choke Point from the Obama-Biden era to weaponize our financial system against their political opponents. Yeah, we know this. Marco Rubio said that digging through American citizens' private financial transactions based on political phrases is a clear weaponization of the federal government, and those responsible must be held responsible. Good luck with that. But I agree. Let's see. Tactics of Marxism. Weaponization of the federal government against private citizens for their political or religious beliefs is straight out of the playbook of Marxism, and was also used to identify, crush, and control occupied peoples under the communist Soviet Union. Yep. Yeah, this is like textbook, like authoritarian. You know, authoritarianism. It doesn't matter what your flavor it is. If it's the left, it's communism. If it's the right, it's fascism. But at the end of the day, the only axis you have to worry about is the vertical one, and that's authoritarian. And on top of that, it's authoritarianism, and that's what this shit is. Doesn't matter which side of it is doing it. So hopefully there's a lot more pushback on this here. I'm not going to hold my breath. It's going to be another case of a death by 1,000 cuts. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Oh yeah, that's right. I do have Discord showing up in my chat now. That's what that is. Aha. Okay. National security experts raise alarm over Biden's EV push. This is kind of an extension of the EV scam article we opened up with. Coalition of 17 retired military officials led by retired U.S. Army Major General James Marks has warned that President Joe Biden's push for mass electric vehicle adoption is a threat to national security. And here's the details why, and these are details I agree with. In particular, regulatory initiatives meant to incentivize EV adoption intensify America's vulnerability to political interference by the Chinese Communist Party. Now, why is this? The rapid electrification and transportation with lower greenhouse gases. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the main reason why this is a national security issue, and the reason why China is part of this here, is because of rare earth elements and their manufacturing. Like I've said this before, that China has a stranglehold on rare earth elements, not just for like mining them, but the main reason why China has a advantage over everyone else is because of production. That is to say, refinement and production of rare earth elements, because they don't give a fuck about the environment. So they will rape, pillage, and throw bodies at the problem, and cause all this pollution and environment degradation and slave labor and all that shit. And that's where the advantage comes from for them, and that's why they have the US over a barrel if they go ahead continue to go ahead with this EV adoption shit, because China controls the purse strings in this particular instance. And because of that, being the America's leading adversary at this point, of course, it's a national security issue. That's what it comes down to. And not just like not just the military, also like a bunch of auto dealers and manufacturers are also on board with this here thing, because it's like, look, uh, this is the problem. If things continue the way they are, it's going to be a problem down the line, and very fucking soon, because the instant U.S. and China goes into a hot war and stuff, like the tap closes for all these critical resource materials and stuff, and of course this industry will just go away like instantly. And you know, contrary to clown world, there are people out there who aren't idiots and who run simulations and strategize over this shit, and they've been saying this for years at this point. It's like, if you offshore everything to China, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass, and lo and behold, this is what's happening. And going over a bunch of other EV details we covered before ad nauseum and stuff and whatever. But the main takeaway from this here is that a lot of people, especially people in up, like ex major generals and a shit ton of the industry, are like, look, it's like, you gotta sort this shit out, or else it's gonna become a problem, which I agree with. So, speaking in clown world and lighthearted news, furries are infiltrating our schools. Now, this article is written by a normie. This article was written by a normie who was having dinner with relatives, and his teenage cousins were talking about the infiltration of like, furries in school and stuff. And like, I've known about this shit for years. You've known about this shit for years and stuff. So it's kind of funny to see like a normie news reporter come across this shit and experience it, and I find it hilarious. Like, so this guy, so this person opens up. As I sat at a Christmas dinner table, my fork poised over a baked potato, crisp to perfection, I found myself enrolled in an impromptu seminar in the curious world of furries, courtesy of my teenage relatives. These bright-eyed purveyors of contemporary oddities regale tales of a Sydney satellite city schools, a veritable hotbed of furry fandom. I had heard whispers about the subculture, apparently false reports of cat litter being offered up in schools, but the depth and fervor of this phenomenon had previously eluded my grasp. And she's just like going on and on about like, we all know how furries work and what they are and how they work and stuff. So this is kind of just old news and stuff. But it's kind of it's funny, because it's like, she's like, oh, is this just an Australian thing? It's like, no, this is a global thing. and going over like, okay, the main takeaway I have from this here, other than having a chuckle at Normie discovering furries for the first time, which is always funny. Yif in hell for a fag. Yeah. A reminder: this is Odyssey, so you can say fag. So, my main takeaway from this is that it is an extension of Clown World in that this reporter also this reporter conveyed some stories from her cousins about how this shit is tolerated. So the alphabet soup stuff, like the tranny shit, is tolerated and promoted, but also the furry shit too is tolerated and promoted because like if you're gonna be wearing your tail and ears and shit and cause a disruption in class, from this article, they repeated that this shit is tolerated because it's the identity they choose to identify with, and like it's their choice, and bullshit like that. And I kind of always had an inkling that with the clown world, with the tranny shit and stuff, that the furry shit would also come along for a ride, for the ride, as it were, and stuff. And this here article just confirms my suspicion of, like, yeah, this here shit is being quote unquote tolerated in school as as a identity culture identification, bullshit, clown world bullshit. So on one hand, I was amused at a normie discovering furries, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like down because it's like, oh yeah, clown world. So yeah, just add more fuel to the fire. I don't know. You win some, lose some. Okay, this fucking chuckle shit. Okay. This made the rounds the other day, and this speaker pissed me off. Fuck these cops. A lesson to him. New York City woman makes self-incriminating statements after car ramming attack caught on video. So this chuckle shit ran over a cop while she was stoned out of her mind. Okay, Sarah Dula, 24, a New England College criminal justice graduate. This. You can't make this shit up. A criminal justice graduate runs over a fucking cop while stoned in New York City. Wants to specialize in crisis communications, so she has a bit to learn after intentionally hitting a police officer with her Lexus, then declaring "fuck these cops" is a lesson to him. A video captured Dula driving the wrong way on Park Avenue, east of 71st Street, around 4:30 p.m. last Wednesday, when an officer approached the vehicle to turn it around. Then she floored the black Lexus and hit the officer. She was later found to be high on marijuana. She told investigators, "I told the cop I wanted to go straight and he wouldn't move, so I hit him. I did that on purpose. Fuck these cops. He wouldn't move." So, on video, verbal admittance, and it's just like, and high as a kite. And it gets even better. The wounded officer suffered a broken leg and extensive bruising. However, Assistant District Attorney Lucy Shepard did not charge Dula with attempted murder. Instead, she will face an array of charges for first-degree attempted assault, attempted aggravated assault upon a police officer, second-degree assault, second-degree reckless endangerment, and operating a vehicle while ability impaired by drugs and reckless driving. I still say there should be all of that plus the attempted murder charges, but this is New York, so New York going to do what New York does. Adula has a record of past arrests, including criminal mischief arrest in March of 2022 after destroying property. The charges were dropped. This is a weird rap sheet. So, destruction of property, charges dropped. She was also arrested at least twice in New Hampshire, including arrests in 2020 for failing to stop in an intersection in the town of Henniker and striking another vehicle. She then fled the scene. She was also arrested for a simple assault after an incident in Concord Hospital. There are reports that Dula has been under treatment for mental illness. This is my surprise face, including possible bipolar illness. So a bipolar stoner ran over a cop. Fucking, I can't even. It is difficult for the courts to balance such elements. This is a person who has gone to school and reportedly supports her mother and family while struggling with mental illness. On the other hand, she just admitted to intentionally striking down an officer. It is not clear if the defense will argue the mental illness as defense and argue she was experiencing an uncontrolled episode due to medication problems. Yet, how is a judge to handle such a claim? Dula is not institutionalized due to a view that she is able to function in society. Defense could argue that the episode showed she requires institutionalization and treatment, but that she is not in control of her actions. What a wild ride. Woof. Oh my god. Stuffy. Wall Street Journal editor in chief admits to Davos Elite where we no longer own the news. Celebrate the times, come on. Thanks to the internet and shrinking press freedoms, legacy media outlets no longer have a monopoly on information and narratives. They lost that monopoly a long time ago. And I'm all here for it because fuck these people. Fuck them, fuck them, fuck them. Case in point, during the World Economic Forum discussion in Davos entitled Defending Truth, Wall Street Journal, I don't know what that stands for. Emma Tucker lamented the loss of control over the facts, modern news. I think there's a very specific challenge for legacy brands like New York Times and Wall Street Journal, Tucker said, adding, if you go back really not too long ago, as I say, we owned the news. We were the gatekeepers and very much owned the facts as well. Fuck this cunt. If if it is if it said it in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, then it was a fact. She continued, adding, nowadays people can go all sorts of different sources for the news, and they're much more questioning about what we're saying. Yes, this is a good thing. You fucking cunt. Russia. European Commissioner VP Vera Jourova also piped up during the same discussion, calling the rise of information security threats, suggesting it was part of Russian military doctrine that will start an information war, and we are in it now. Russia can't even wipe its own ass at this point. Honestly, it really can't. Like, just look at the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is eventually going to lose, but it is the traditional Russian way of just throwing bodies at the problem. They will drown you in their bodies, and they will win by drowning you in the bodies. Attrition is the way of Russia. But attrition being the way of Russia does not a superpower make, and their ability to, Russia will hack something, and then, this is information in the news and blah, 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 like all this shit that they're spouting is not exactly in Russia's wheelhouse and ability to do so. Bitch, please. I agree with this. Bitch, please. I'm just going to read this because I do like this. Like when Hillary Clinton campaign used former British spook's Russian source to fabricate a hoax against Donald Trump, which was peddled through the Wall Street Journal and every single other legacy media outlet, that kind of information war, or when 51 former U.S. intelligence officials used disinformation to influence the 2020 election, suggesting that the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop bombshell was Russian meddling. We all know how that turned out. This information is a very powerful tool, Junova continued, adding that in the EU we're focused on improving of. Okay, she has to be ESL. Focusing on improving of the system where people will get the facts straight. We don't speak about opinions. We're not correcting anyone's opinions or language. This is about facts. Bullshit. Or as the Epoch Times said, bitch, please. As we highlighted earlier this week, Journova spent her Davos time meeting the heads of likes of YouTube and Meta, ensuring they play by the rules, while her boss Ursula von der Leyen called for overarching goalless control over flow information in the digital age from the Minority News, and it's just like Davos isn't over yet, so there's gonna be more of this shit. Actually, I think next one is. Nope. 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 I'm going to bump this one up because it's related. Shocking poll exposes how much elites hate us. A shocking poll exposes the utter contempt the elites hold of the general public in, with more than three-quarters wanting to ration food and energy to combat quote-unquote climate change, and a majority wanting air travel for holidays banned. Unless they do it with their private jets. Fuck these people. The survey was conducted by the Committee of Unleash Prosperity, CUP, a Maryland based nonprofit advocacy group, for these assholes, obviously. The organization polled members of America's 1%, defined as people who have a postgraduate degree and an annual income of more than $150,000. 77% of elites who were asked to fight climate change, would you favor or oppose a strict rationing of gas, meat, and electricity, said they would favor such policy. The figure rises even higher to the 89% among Ivy League graduates. Figures, blah, blah, blah. Presumably, they're well ensured they are exempt from such rationing, while poor people can go whistle. In addition, 69% of elites want an immediate ban on gas stove, while 81% want a gas-powered vehicles outlawed. Of course, they fucking do. Water. Okay. The majority also want government to forbid the use of air conditioning and non-essential air travel, effectively outlining vacations rules that presumably will apply to private jets and luxury compounds. Of course. It's always the case. 67% of elites also believe that teachers should decide what children are taught, compared to 26% who think parents should decide. The poll also revealed how elite totally at odds with the general public about lifestyle and beliefs. When canvassed on how much freedom the United States should bestow its citizens, 47% said people had too much freedom, compared to 21% who said there was too much control. In comparison, 57% of voters said that there was too much control, compared to 16% who said there was too much freedom. 74% said their finances are getting better, while just 20% said the general public say the same. A whopping 84% also approve Joe Biden is doing as president. Well, recent polls show that Biden has improved rating around 39% with general voters. This is like disconnect all the way down. The people who run America, or at least think they do, live in a bubble of their own construction, write the poll's authors. They've isolated themselves from everyday American realities, such as the degree their views about what is and what should be happening in the country differ wildly from the average American. As Chris Morrison notes, the poll results are likely to be mirrored across the Western world in a similar way to how the backlash against the elite policies are replicated in numerous different countries. 2024 is going to be wild, and shit like this. Why, not only America, there's a lot of elections going on in 2024, and because of results like this, said elections are going to be fucking wild, and it's going to be amazing. Take a peek at Proctor's general chat. Okay, got up. Okay, so this has been a long story, ongoing story, and I'm all for it. Get woke, go broke. Mass layoffs as Sport Illustrated after publisher loses license. Sports Illustrated rights holder Arena Group has had its license to publish the magazine revoked by Authentic Brands Group after inability to make $3.75 million quarterly payment at the end of 2023. In other words, the publisher likely isn't bringing in enough profits to maintain the brand. Under contract, Arena Group is required to pay another $45 million to ABG because of the loss of the license. So, like basic contract shit. So it's like the part of the contract to hold the license to publish the magazine was like, okay, you have to make this much money and pay us. And if you're ever in breach of this here, you have to pay this much to term in breach of the contract. So he's like, get fucked. As a result, Sports Illustrated has been forced to lay off their entire staff while discussions are underway to salvage the arrangement. In the statement, Sports Illustrated Union and the News Guild of New York vowed to fight for every one of our colleagues. But how could this have happened? One of the oldest and best-known names of sports commentary is now essentially defunct. The signs were all there. The shutdown takes place only 3 years after the company committed to major layoffs in 2020, back when they were run by Maven, shaving off $27 million from their costs compared to 2018. Apparently, this wasn't enough, and ownership was acquired by Arena Group. In November 2023, Sports Illustrated was caught using fake journalists and AI-generated content. I remember this. further indicating they were on the verge of going broke. But here we're getting to the main part here. The true cause will be conveniently ignored by the corporate media, but the Wolves of Sports Illustrated began directly after they tied the publication to woke messaging. For example, the magazine began parading plus-size fat positivity models in their sponsored runway shows and swimsuit editions in 2017. For a publication that's supposed to be focused on athletic excellence, the idea of fat positivity is an obvious anathema to their core readership. People who are incapable of athleticism in most arenas should not be used as representatives of the sporting world or pinnacle beauty for that matter. And it gets even better. The company then latched on to feminist equal pay movement for women's sports, arguing that female athletes and clubs should be offered the pay equal to male sports. The movement completely ignored the key factors of audience interest that male athletes tend to make more money because more people are interested in watching men's sports. It's just basic is the economy stupid? Sports Illustrated also began featuring transgender women, men dressed as women, in their women's swimsuit editions, perpetuating the gender fluid ideology. This led to a conservative boycott of the magazine in 2023, and now here they are, out of business. Duh. Oh god. The carnage falling upon woke companies in the past couple of years has been relentless. Numerous big tech and entertainment platforms are suffering a string of layoffs and budget cuts. No one in the mainstream wants to acknowledge that wokeification in the corporate world is a primary contributor to the downfall. And it is fucking glorious. The bottom line, the vast majority of American consumers do not want woke content and will not pay for it. Furthermore, the people that do want this kind of content are usually activists with no money to spend. Duh. Despite this reality, companies continue to embrace far left ideology, promote it through their products, marketing, and their own detriment. This explains why political left has been so hostile to free markets and the notion that catering to consumers in the free market, people can always walk away from the woke business. It doesn't matter how much they saturate the media with propaganda, all people have to do is not open their wallets. Funny how the free market works. In the socialist or ESG-based world, such companies would be fully supported by governments and tax dollars. In other words, you will be forced to pay for the transgender swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated, whether you want to or not. For now, thankfully, get will go broke still rule that widely applies. God bless. God bless. Okay. As Chinese purchases of U.S. farmland soar, it becomes impossible to track how much it owns. I've covered this in different articles over a while now and stuff, in that China owns a shit ton of land in North America and outside of China in general and stuff. I know they own like Canada, lock, stock, and barrel at this point. But the main crux of this article, and really the more scary part, is how much U.S. farmland that China owns. Blah, blah, blah. Here's what we do know. According to the Department of Agriculture data, foreign ownership investment in U.S. farmland, pastures, and forests jumped about 4 million acres in 2021 to up 40% from 2016. But analysis conducted by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, a nonpartisan watchdog that reports to Congress, found mistakes in the data, including the largest land holding link with China being counted twice. This is fucking retarded. Other challenges include the USDA's reliance on foreigners self-reporting for activity. This is fucking stupid as shit. It's like, okay, enemies of the state own land and they're on hook to self-report what they hold. This is fucking retarded. As a result, foreign ownership of U.S. cropland is drawing attention from Washington as concern rises about possible threats to food supply chains and other national security risks. And as reported last summer, lawmakers have called for a crackdown on sales of farmland to China and other nations. Yes, as you should. I mean, look at all that red. That red is not good. Without improving this internal process, USDA cannot report reliable information to Congress or public about where and how much U.S. agricultural land is held by foreign persons, the report said. So it's just like the U.S. is an empire in decline, but it's not too late. And it's little shit like this. It's like, okay, we're going to give you all back your money, and fuck you. Get the fuck out. Seriously, that's all it takes. It's like, all right, here's what you paid. Get the fuck out. Or just go even like old school. Manifest Destiny. Is owned by Chinese. Fuck them. Okay, this one's more of a me thing. So Canada dominates global uranium production. I'm bringing up this article because a lot of people have in their minds that the U.S. imports everything. It doesn't import everything, but what it does import is mostly Canadian. That's like the number one exporter uh, of oil to the United States is Canada, and the same thing goes for uranium. We are the number one exporter of uranium to the United States. Uranium production in Cigar Lake, Canada is the highest grade in the world. Since 2014, the site has mined 105 million pounds of the radioactive metal, which is naturally occurring on Earth. It is the largest uranium mine on the planet. Fox, for context, an egg-sized amount of uranium fuel can generate as much electric power as 88 tons of coal. Given its vast uranium deposits, Canada has produced the most uranium worldwide since 1945. This graphic, via the visual capitalist Marcus Liu, shows the cumulative uranium production by county in modern history with data from the World Nuclear Association. So, Canada at 17.4%, United States 11.9%, Russia at 11.9%, Pakistan 11%, and it fucking drops off after there. Since 1945, total of 3.5 million tons of uranium produced globally. Together in Canada and the United States account for 29% of global production, mining 932,000 tons over the last several decades. That's a lot of fucking uranium. And it's all in North America. America. This actually repeating America over and over doesn't have the same ring as USA. USA. And I'm just going over general random nuclear power statistics and stuff, but it's, you know, this is kind of like this portion is geology lesson and stuff, in that we got a lot of spicy rock here, and I'm all for that, especially going forward, going forward with the energy wars that are coming. Okay. And ending off on COVID nonsense. Actually, this is the only COVID nonsense for this entire stream, which is kind of amazing for once. Let's see. Journalist who attacked a top tennis player for refusing COVID vaccine dies suddenly. So when the COVID first started, there was this tennis player who was banned from playing because he wouldn't get the genetic engineering shot, and he was vilified by the media and stuff, by this journalist in particular. I put journalist in quotation marks, by this guy in particular, and suddenly this guy drops dead. Oh, spicy. Events have been so frenetic over the past few years that it may be difficult for some to remember, but at the height of the COVID pandemic, there was a massive media campaign to destroy the image of any celebrity that publicly refused to take the vaccine. Blah, 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 blah. Mandates and vaccines were more loyal to the test than the effort to save lives. Yada, yada. Keep in mind, a player had a clean bill of health at the time, and an example of defiance was a jab was considered unacceptable. One of the lead instigators of the attempt cancellation was Mike Dixon, a prominent British sports journalist working for the Daily Mail. Of course, he was. Dixon, also noted as being relentless in his criticism of Novak, and calling the player arrogant and deplorable for refusing to submit. This week, Mike Dixon is reported to have collapsed and died suddenly at the age of 59 while covering the Australian Open. The cause of death has been kept confidential. I wonder fucking why. Despite Dixon's attempt to paint Novak as a global villain, the player had only kind words for the journalist upon news of his passing, offering his condolences. Contrary to all accusations, very often it's the COVID cultists that act like villains, while the people they criticize display character and honor. Yeah, funny how that works. Australia proved to be an exceptionally submissive country when it came to mandates. Some may blame the lack of complete info available to debunk Frantic mainstream claims, however, in 2022, there was considerable evidence the contrary to government assertions of COVID and vaccines, for example, blah, 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 blah. This is shit we've covered. We've seen before and nauseam, but I just find kind of funny how, like, miserable cunt who sucked daddy government's cock and was a dutiful propagandist and did hit piece upon hit piece about someone who would not bend a knee, allegedly drops fucking dead from what he was championing for. This is fucking hilarious. He will not be missed. I'm not the bigger man in this. The Novak here is the bigger man in this. I'm not. I'm a spiteful, vindicative asshole. You made your bed. This guy. You made your bed. Actually, more in this case, you dug your grave. The least you can do is lay down in it. Fuck you. So, yep, that's that. Yeah. Okay. I know the stream quality has been bad, but anyone can shout out in chat. Do you want to watch me play Paddle World? Yes or no? Because I really want to get back to playing my not Minecraft, not Ark, not Pokemon. I'm just saying, for $30, for $35, like, it's on sale for 10% off right now. So for like 30, okay, after tax for me, it was like $40. I imagine I'm going to be getting hundreds of hours out of this game for like $40. You know, I'm okay with this. If I don't hear anyone pipe up in the next couple minutes, okay. I get like what? Okay, so if stream's that bad, I'm just gonna end it here. Just gonna call it. Okay. Yeah, sorry the stream was so bad, but I don't know. Internet connection. What part of the chain it crapped out? I don't know. So, thanks for coming. Take it easy. Yeah, I'll catch you later.